Good morning, good evening, or good night. I hope you guys are doing well and welcome back. Football is back and it starts on Friday with Nottingham Forest versus Fulham. And we're here to talk about, well, everything we need to talk about, really. There's been nothing for about a week and a half now, so we are going to get cracking and start talking about the upcoming game. We'll probably touch a bit on the Cooper stories and stuff like that, but we want to talk about teams and everything like that, guys. So make sure if you've just joined, please do hit that like button, get your comments in as well. And we've got our good friend Ez, who I will bring in now as well. Ez, how you doing, bro?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good, bro. How are you?
Good, man. It's good to be back and talking football, man. Feels
Yeah,
like pre-season 2.0, don't it?
isn't it? It's been an extended break, which none of us were expecting, and it's nice to be back talking football after everything that's been going on this last week or so, personally and privately, and everything that's going on publicly. So yeah, it's good to be focusing back on football, my friend.
Good, man. Good. There's not been too. There's been obviously the Cooper story with the whole Brighton link over the last week or so. I don't know if we just want to quickly touch it up because it's pretty much dead in the water now. Brighton have
Yeah.
got other links and everything. But I think the question I want to ask you, what's fascinated me this last week has been, I was surprised to see how many people were actually saying if he goes, he goes. If he goes, I'm fine with it. And I was just like, I know everyone's got their own opinion, but on this Cooper one, you gotta think, come on, it's like what he did for us last season. Okay, we haven't had the best of starts, but what do you reckon, man? We're
I
Cooper in, yeah. At least let me know I'm sane still, yeah. And guys in the
no,
chat, you
no,
are also
I,
Cooper in, yeah.
I thought it was so bizarre. I thought it was bizarre that the way the the atmosphere turned from. I mean, we lost against Tottenham, but the atmosphere was amazing.
Yeah,
We walked out of there clapping the players off, and they did they came to the fans, and we cheered them all. And then to see what happened, yes, it was a let's use the word, it was a disaster against Bournemouth, but that reaction just I was really upset by it. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see the result coming, but I didn't see that reaction coming either. And I've looked back at it, and when we spoke that night, I wasn't sure that I'd heard any booing, and I definitely did switch myself off because I've looked back, and obviously there was booing by a small section. Yeah, it wasn't a lot of people, but it was loud enough to be heard, and I was just baffled by that after everything that we've gone through, these, not just this last year, these last 23 years, what we've
in it,
gone
man,
through.
in it. Yeah, I mean, how many managers have we gone through? It's like a revolving door. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I could name you every manager in the last,
No,
since freaking Frank Clark. I mean, that's a hell of a pop quiz, isn't it? Name every Forest manager since then. But
exactly. Yeah, and I think we'd all struggle. I think between us we might get it, but yeah, individually, I think we struggle to remember them all. And that, yeah, going back onto that, I can't see why anybody would want him to go. He's the right man for the job. He was the right man for the job when he came in 12 months ago, and he's the right man for the job now. Just because we're going through a bit of a bad patch, if anyone's going to get it right, it's going to be Cooper. And I would have been absolutely heartbroken to lose into Brighton. I mean, they're a good team, and they're the kind of team and the setup that we should actually be looking at because
yeah,
they've done amazingly well in their time back
I
in the
still
Premier
don't
League.
see it as a bigger club than us. I know that's probably
Certainly,
everyone will say I'm being arrogant about Forest, but what have they ever won? And I think for me, Potter was the one holding them together, and just he got a good style of football. He got them playing well, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Brighton struggle, the rest of the season now without him, unless they whip out another Potter. And that's why there was that link to Cooper. He's got that same style in terms of he can bond a whole squad together, get the best out of them and everything. And I understand the link, but for me, I still wouldn't have seen in Cooper. If I'm putting myself in Cooper's position, I don't see the appeal of
yeah,
going to Brighton where you've had Marinakis spend all this money. And I'm not buying all this crap about people saying, "Oh, these players aren't Cooper's choice, they're Marinakis and all this stuff." For me, that's not. Look how we got Morgan Gibbs White, and we paid above and beyond for him. That's showing you the chairman's backing the manager. And then I think the other thing that's getting the fans going is about the whole contract thing. Why hasn't Cooper yet signed the contract? I think that's the one that's causing most of the fans to waver a little about it. But I mean, it is what it is. Let's just up a few of these messages. Donatella, hope you're well, saying I was at the Bournemouth match. I was embarrassed by the fans booing. I mean, I don't see what. Look, the thing with the booing, there's always been this saying in the Premier League: you're never more than 3 losses away from a crisis. And like it or not, that rule always seems to apply. That was our 3rd loss in a row. And that's, there will be fans that turn. Look, they've got, each to their own if they want to boo. I don't personally think, but there's a time and a place for it as well. Mark was saying the atmosphere, touching on what you were saying, is about the atmosphere, a bit flat at City grounds.
It's really strange. Yeah, Mark's spot on. It was a very strange atmosphere. It wasn't even something that I've witnessed in the near past. It was very strange. A few people likened it to, back in the day when we had McLaren, and all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't cool. Everybody has a right, and I do understand that you've paid your money, you have a right to voice your opinion. But surely, in this situation, the team need us more than they've ever needed us, in the last few years, and we need to be behind them. And that's, of course, that's ringing in their ears, and we'll go on to what I think, we'll talk about what we're expecting for the lineup on Friday. But yeah, I do expect him to make big changes, and off air, I've touched on my theory on why he played the way he did, and we might get onto that later on. But it certainly upset me, but I don't. That's not for me. That's not the best way to react, and I've never booed my team. Like I mentioned before, like booing my own mum, I wouldn't do that. So I wouldn't boo my team.
She puts on the table a bad dinner, innit? You're gonna stop
exactly. I could whisper it, but I won't say it out loud. No.
Well, I think that's the key point now. I don't mind, and I do it myself. I will react badly after a match. Say this player played crap, that player was crap. What was he doing with the formation? But that's just natural reaction. And then 2-3 days later, you've calmed down, and then you start to look at it logically and everything. So it is what it is, man. But we are now looking forward rather than behind. That Bournemouth match is done and dusted. What happens is in the past. We can't change it. And next up is Fulham. And this is going to be back-to-back matches technically now at the City ground. So I guess it gives the fans a chance to really, voice it again and get that atmosphere. It's going to be under the lights. It's going to be that. I love a night match at the City ground. It's been years since I've been to one. But there's nothing quite like it, where you're under the lights and that atmosphere, the floodlights are on and everything. So I'm expecting a cracking atmosphere, but I'm also expecting some changes on the pitch, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, some big changes. And yeah, in fact, I might as well do it now because I had a theory. I had a theory that Cooper played his the majority of the players who got him there last season in that game against Bournemouth, even with the substitutions. And my feeling is, obviously he was wrong to think this way, and if he has thought this way, but he possibly thought that out of all the games, certainly in our opening fixtures, that would be the most home banker out of all of them.
And
I think he gave them one last chance because obviously all these new players are itching up a bit to get their chance. The likes of Freuler, who once, like I said, once he's in, I don't think you'll shift him. Players like that.
Why do you think, just quickly on Freuler, mate, why do you think he's not featured? And I think this is the player that's causing a lot of the fans to say, oh, he wasn't a Cooper signing. I don't buy into it because I saw Cooper's interview after the Grimsby match, and the first comment he made was when they said Freuler, it was like, hell of a player, isn't he? You could see is like, we've got a player here. But I do get the point about why has he not played? I mean, he got the Grimsby match and the Man City match off the top of my head, didn't he?
Yeah.
But why? Bournemouth would have been perfect for him, wouldn't it?
I believe so. But I think Cooper went with what he thought was I think he was basically giving them one last chance to prove that they're good enough for the Premier League. And I don't think you'll be seeing much more of Steve Cook or Jack Colback in Premier League for the rest of the season. Not that they're the only ones at fault. There were others at fault, and the shape was at fault as well. Because they made one change at half time, and it seemed to change the game for them. And
they changed their shape, didn't they? They went to 3 at the back, and that did worry me a bit because Cooper. One of my criticisms of Cooper this season is I don't think he's made substitutions quick enough in the second half. I've always felt he's 5 to 10 minutes too late with it. You know, formation and stuff aside, but in terms of just a quick change where you can feel that momentum shifting in a match, you almost want your manager to be able to sense that momentum shift is about to come. And I just feel he's 5 minutes behind the changes, in my opinion. Others may disagree, but I agree with what you're saying. They made one change, and then that caught us cold, didn't it?
Yeah, and we didn't react to it. And what that game was crying out was for O'Brien. There's one clip that I saw where Worrell's got the ball and he's looking forward and he's looking at Yates and Kouyaté, and they're both pointing to the other fullback for him to pass it. They're not showing for the ball. They're not asking for it. We play for it at all. We bypassed our midfield in that game, and the kind of player that we were calling out for in that game was O'Brien. Somebody's going to ask for the ball, who's going to try and get in. We don't take enough risks, and we're playing that way, and we're still losing. I'd rather we took risks and lost. Instead of playing that negative way. Like I said, I think there'll be big changes. I think Worrell's position will change, and possibly.
Do you think Worrell will be dropped?
I don't think he'll be dropped.
I've just seen. Sorry to interrupt. I've just seen Tomic saying as well. Do you think Cooper could actually bench Worrell? I mean, guys in the chat, let us know your thoughts on it, and we'll open up to you guys on the panel to get you on the panel as well. But Ez, on that point, has he got the balls, as they say, to drop his captain?
100%, 100% he has, and I think Worrell won't be able to complain if that does happen. What can he say? Cooper just has to show him his show reel from the start of the season. And yes, he had a couple of good moments against Tottenham, which almost made us forget all the errors that happened. And yeah, I'm not digging him out, but he's going to need a bit more time to adjust to this league. And we just can't risk it at the moment, unfortunately. I think there will be a change, but I don't think he'll be dropped. I think he'll be pushed into the middle of a back three. And I'd either see Bian Cohn come in, or we see Bardet come in. I think one of those two will come in on Friday. I feel it. If not, there'll be a change of formation and we'll go four out of the back. But if we go 4 out of the back, I'm sorry, and this is going to sound unpopular opinion, but I wouldn't have Worrell as one of those two. I'd keep McKenna in. I think the mistake he made was so unlike him, it's unbelievable. But he was under pressure not to keep the ball in play. He knew he should have put it into Rosette. And 99 times of 100, he would have put it into Rosette. But for some reason, he thought, no, I've got to keep it in play. I've got to keep the momentum going. And it was a critical mistake. But
let me just put that to the chat in a poll. I'm curious on this. I'm just going to put a poll out. Does Cooper drop Worrell? I'm just going to do a yes, no. And I'm not saying will he. I'm saying basically, has he got the balls to drop it? Guys in the chat, firstly, make sure you like the video. We're only on 20 likes and there's 85 of you odd in here. So get those likes up, guys. Come on. Football is back on. If you're happy that Forest are playing this week, let's see it with the likes in the chat. But do you think he will drop him? So get the votes in on the chat. I personally don't reckon he will, mate. I'm not saying what I want. I'm saying now what I think Cooper will do. And I just think I could see him. Cook definitely gets dropped. I think Bolly comes in, or Bidet, or someone like that. I don't see him dropping the captain. I might be wrong, but at the same time, what I would say to Cooper, if you're watching, hi, love you. Just look at the example of Maguire at Man United. Yeah, they what's his face? Eric Ten Hag comes in and he actually has the balls to drop Maguire, which 3 previous managers wouldn't do. First 2 games when Maguire played, Man, you lost them both. They go on a 3-game win streak with Maguire out of the team. Now, I'm not saying it's all on Maguire, nor do I actually care. And then they bring him back in for their European match and they go and lose again. But my point here is, it's a statement, isn't it? For me, Ten Hag dropping Maguire was saying to the rest of the team, even the captain isn't guaranteed a starting spot. And I feel like if he would do it and drop Worrell, even if it was for 1 game, just to prove a point, to say, no matter who you are in this club, you're not bigger than the club, and you are subject to your performances, whether or not your name is on that team sheet. And for me, I think that would just be a statement. We've got people who can come in. Biancon, what's he got to do to get a chance, like you were saying? You know, I've seen him in a couple of the preseasons. I thought he looked okay. You know, he's got more pace than Worrell for sure. But for me, I don't see him dropping Worrell. I see him definitely dropping Cook and probably putting Bolly in. McKenna is, I've got no real issues with McKenna. Yes, there was that mistake. What I will say is people are saying he's never made a mistake before. I can't remember him handling the ball against Spurs, but I
think against Cardiff away last season as well, he did a similar thing where it was a short back pass and they got in and they scored. So
I'm not even looking that far back, mate. I'm just looking back to the Spurs penalty. You know?
No, fair enough. But yeah.
But I'm not. I love McKenna. He's the best out of the 3 by a country mile. Yeah,
I agree, 100%. 100%.
But I think Cook will be dropped. I think Worrell stays, and Bolly will come in for Cook. I think that's what he'll go with. But that doesn't solve the pace issue because Bolly isn't fast. So
do you think you'll stick with a back 3 then? Because I'm really. We kind of discussed it on the last time when we were on, and you were talking about. I think it was a 4-2-3-1 formation or something like that. Yeah, I love that as well. We've got to be more on the front. And you know, I haven't done a lot of research on it, but listening to and watching comments about teams who play 3 at the back in the Premier League, not many teams do it, and not many teams do it successfully.
2.
You know,
Chelsea and Spurs. Yeah,
exactly.
Chelsea and Spurs, and that's Conte who's drilled it in wherever he's gone, be it Chelsea when he went over to Italy, and now back at Spurs. And then Tuchel has always favoured a 3, but now I don't know what Potter will do with Chelsea. So, you know, it's not many teams that do it. Most Prem teams will play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, something along those lines. You will see them occasionally when they play a Man City. They will switch it to a 3 to put numbers in and around the back. But in general, it's usually a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. And for me, the quality, I think our strongest third is the midfield. When you look at actual quality of players that we have,
it should be,
it's the midfield. But to get the midfielders all in, you have to go to a 4-2-3-1. You know, you could, and even then, you're going to have loads of combos that you could go with. So, for example, as a sitting 2, you could have Coyote there with Freuler maybe, or you could do a Mangala and an O'Brien. And then in front of them, you could put MG Dub, Brennan Johnson on the right, Dennis on the left, or Lingard, whoever you want. And then that still leaves you a striker like Owoni up front. There's so many combos you can do there. It then relieves the pressure off Worrell, who's trying to cover the right wing back in Nico Williams. And at the same time, the thing that people forget is that Williams and Loddy earned their trade in a back 4. You know,
100%.
It makes sense, but I don't see it going. Let me just, I just want to thank Brinley quickly. Thank you so much, Brinley, for becoming a YouTube member. Guys, if you want to be a member, it's 99p and you get all the forest emojis that you can spam in the chat away. So members, welcome Brinley, and thank you so much, Brinley, for supporting. It's really, really appreciated. Sorry, as I interrupted you there.
No, not at all. But over, and you can even have a look at 4-3-1-2. So you have Johnson and the 1 year and Gibbs White just behind. But like you said, if you get that midfield 3 right, and maybe off the top of my head, I would go with if it was all fit tomorrow. We're playing for Friday. I'd put in Mangala, O'Brien, and Freuler. They'd be my midfield 3.
Yeah.
You know, they've got movement. They've got Mangala strong on the ball. Brian's just a little, he's a terrier. He's
Area.
around
Yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
He hurries them up, if he had more support in that Newcastle game, you would have seen a better performance from our midfield, but he was
Yeah, he
stuck
only
with
came on for the last 10 minutes or whatever, didn't he? Because Colback started that one.
He was playing with Colback, wasn't he? And it just didn't work. But yeah, I'd go with those three, and I'll give you so
The other
many
thing
options.
on those as well, sorry again to interrupt you, but
Sure,
both
no problem.
Mangala and O'Brien aren't scared to come deep to take the ball off either the centre back or have the keeper throw it out to them. Henderson himself has said it. I remember in one of his early interviews when he saw Mangala, he'd never heard of him. It was clear before he started playing with him. And he's like, this guy's incredible. Comes, takes the ball, has the strength to then, work it up the pitch. And it's just that three to me has a ring to it. Freuler, Mangala, and O'Brien. But are you going a 4-3-1-2 with that?
Yeah, 4-3-1-2. Because Brennan Johnson is, I know, and even there's people slagging him off. I mean, it's so out of left field at the moment. He is our superstar. With all our signings, I still think he's our number one player. He's our still a surprise package, and I think this, like I've said before, the sky's the limit for that young lad. If he keeps going on this trajectory, he'll be, he'll be what we would almost class a world-class player. I think he will. He's got
I've got no problems with that term. Looking forward on him. Do you think the formation is hindering him, or do you just think he's struggling maybe a little bit with the pace of the Prem?
I think it's a bit of everything. The formation hasn't helped him so far. It's not brought the best out of him. And one thing we definitely need, we need a number 9 who's up there. And Awoniyi, with 2 games, he got his best chance. We got 4 points out of those 2 games. And then he's hardly featured since, he's come on as a sub. If you're going to invest that money in him, yes, he's a bit rough around the edges, but how's he going to get any better unless he's playing week in, week out at the top level? And this is the top level in terms of club football, in league club football anyway. And he's got to be given a chance. And then you've got somebody like Dennis who's done nothing wrong. He's not deserved to get his chance. He's one player that we've got who's scored goals in this league, and he scored a lot of goals. Well, he scored 10 goals in a very poor Watford
team, yeah.
Really poor, weren't they? And I think it was about half a dozen assists on top of that as well. So about 16, 17 goal contributions from him last season. And he only played really half a season. The second half of the season, for some reason, he dropped off. But yeah, he needs to get his chance.
How are you saying all these in as you got about 15 players now?
I know. But it's a squad game, and maybe for the time being, he's going to be one that we bring on as a super sub, because he's got such a burst of speed. He's going to be itching to play, and I think that at the moment he might not be quite there for a start yet, but he's certainly got to be somebody that we play every single game, and he comes on with like 30 minutes to go, depending on how the game's going, obviously. But Awoniyi needs to be given his chance because for me, when he was given his chance, he caused trouble for the opposition. He kept him occupied. Even Surridge, the lad's done nothing wrong. He's a top professional, Surridge is, and he needs to get his chance. Well, yes, but this is the whole point, isn't it? It's a squad game. There'll be certain games that are going to suit certain players and formations better. But I think from now on, from Friday onwards, you'll start seeing a lot more of our new signings being given their chance to make their mark, because we mentioned before that Cooper went with his trusted team, and look what happened, so let's let him go with the people he doesn't quite trust right now and give them the chance to prove him wrong.
I think Mac makes a good point here, guys. Until we can see which is our best 11, fans will have as many views on who should play as there are options, especially losing 3 games in a row in the manner we did. And that goes back to the point of you're only 3 losses away from a crisis in the Premier League. So I agree with what Matt's saying. And then I agree with what Mark's saying. His problem is we can't play them all. And it's a tough one, isn't it? Because for me, I want to see Dennis play. But I also want to see Johnson play. And I also want to see Awoniyi play as well. Awoniyi, for me, needs a run in the team. But I need to see his second touch improving. He's very good at receiving the ball. He just feels a little Bambi on ice when he's taken that. I've seen it so many times now, and he hasn't. To be fair to him, he hasn't had long. But the ball shins off him, goes out for a throw in, or he overhits his pass. I remember there was a chance in the Everton game to feed Johnson through. He actually played the ball right at the right angle, but nailed the ball through, and it went out for a goal kick and stuff. And I think that will come. This guy scored 15 goals last season in a Union Berlin team that ended up finishing, what, 5th or 6th? They're top of the league now, apparently. But it's, I want to see him. And the one I want to talk to you about now is these two. And Brinley's brought them up. He says he doesn't want to see Lingard or Yates in our starting 11 anymore. I agree with one and disagree with the other, but I'd like your opinion. In fact, I'd like the chat's opinion on there as well. Let me just create another quick poll here. And we will bring you guys on in a minute, I promise. Do you drop Lingard? Yes or no? I'm interested in more if we start with Lingard and then we'll move on to Yates. But what have you felt so far about Lingard's performances? With the hype that's come with him, with the expectation, with the whole talk sport, with the West Ham stuff.
Yeah.
Has he met your expectations yet? Or do you think we still not yet seen the best out of him? And if not, why not? What are your thoughts on Lingard?
Well, we certainly haven't seen the best out of him yet. And I kept hoping that the more games he gets, the better his sharpness gets. He's had a few good moments in all the games that he's played, but just not enough to influence, the result and the performance. So I don't know what it is for him. He didn't get much game time at all last season. So this is almost like he's coming in, after a season of not playing football, and that's hard for anybody, especially at this level. Maybe he needs a little bit more time, but I'm going to get away from the term of dropping people because we're going to have to rotate people, and let's
name it as in drop to the bench. I'm not saying drop out of the sky. To the bench.
And maybe his role will be as an impact sub, because you can't invest all that money in NGW and not play him, and he's not disappointed me. For him, again, same with Brennan. I just don't think our formation and the way we've played has suited him so far. But when he's on it, he will be a top player. So he's got to be our focus. And I don't think the 2 number 10s works, not without a number 9 up front. And if you're going to have 2 number 10s, then for me, it's got to be, if you're going to play 2 number 10s, then it's going to be Brennan and MG Dub for me, and not Lingard. So Lingard will have his time and he will be an impact sub, I think. But let's not forget, 5 subs. You've got 9 players to choose from. Yes, I agree with you, what you mentioned earlier about Cooper making his subs a bit too late, because I think now the standard one is on the hour mark and on the 75-minute mark. You could go a lot earlier than that. Like
half time. You could go at half. You could even bring 2 subs on at half time, and you've still got 3 options to change during the second half. You want to do another one at 60, 75, whatever,
Absolutely.
So I agree. I think with Lingard, I don't think it's an attitude problem. I think he's there to play football. I'm just now beginning to wonder, has that whole 18 months or year, whatever it was, of non-competitive first-team football caught up with him? Has he not got enough game time under his belt? Are we still going to give, how much longer should I say, do we give him the excuse of not being match fit? Because he hasn't got through 0 to 90 once this season. And the one that frustrated me the most was the Bournemouth match, because he was rested for the Man City match midweek. And with that in mind, you'd expect him, one, to be fresh for the Bournemouth match, and secondly, against the crappy, quality of opposition we had, I was expecting him to control that midfield, control the attack, command where the other players were going to go. And I didn't really see any of that. You saw little fits and starts here and there, but there wasn't any sustained time on the pitch where Lingard was really dominating the match. Nor have I seen that. Maybe a little bit once MG Dub came on against Everton, if I had to pick out a time that Lingard looked decent. But it's been little cameos here and there. And for me, that's been frustrating me. And again, is he droppable in Cooper's eyes because of the hype that's around him and everything? I think he's getting more towards the end of his career now. He's in his 30s. I'd love him to prove me wrong. I always wanted MG Dub ahead of him, and then I almost feel like having MG Dub and him cost us getting Aouar, as I've said before. But I don't know if Cooper drops him. I really don't. I don't know what you think, but I would personally drop him, but I don't know if Cooper does.
I think he does. I think he does. Because he's not obliged to play him, you know. And he's got to, end of the day, if Cooper, I know Cooper's in demand and he will always be in demand, but he doesn't want to lose his job here. And he doesn't want to be in a position. And unfortunately, no manager's safe in this league. No manager. Look at what happened to Tuchel, you know, in the last week. You know, who saw that coming? And if that's what he's up against, then I don't think he's gonna put himself in a position where he's in the firing line. So I think he can be rotated out of a team, and I think his role might be same with Yatesy, who was mentioned in that comment. I think their roles will be to come on as subs. You know, unfortunately, that's not a disrespect. It's a team game. It's a team game. It's a squad game. You know, we've got to look at the best starting 11 and then who can come on and make a difference. And no doubt, Yatesy can come on and make a difference. You know,
and where did he make his biggest difference? Against Everton. When he came on against Everton, that 25, 30 minutes, whatever it was, he was probably the best player on the pitch, and he really came on, drove it in, and everything. And that's where I think his strength is. That's right. Just 1 second as well. Sorry, I just want to say thank you to James for his 179. He's asking the question: how confident are we Steve Cooper will be the manager Friday? I'm ready to put my mortgage on it, bro. I'm ready to put my mortgage on it. He's not going to Brighton. He's not going to Brighton. But thank you so much for 179, bro. Appreciate it. Sorry, it's gone on Yates.
Yeah, so Yates, I think that can be his key strength. You know, because he's got and he didn't play to his strengths against Bournemouth. Like I said, I didn't remember one run into the box from Yatesy. And just before I forget it, because it's a player that we were linked with, but I was really impressed with Tavernier on Bournemouth. He really ran that show, and I noticed something, which wouldn't have shown on the cameras, but when they scored from that corner, he ran across. Obviously, Yates had been taken off to be. He had to come back on, you know, after his getting treatment. But as Tavernier came across, he went to Lloyd Kelly, I think that's his name, the defender who conceded the who conceded the penalty and knocked their ball. He went to him and says, "I'm passing it to you." I saw him point towards him. So that was their game plan all along from that corner. He knew who he was going to get it to. He knew how it was going to. Obviously, how it played out after that initial header across the box is unforgivable. You know, nobody attacked. And to allow somebody to take an overhead kick in your 6-yard box, you know, that's just unforgivable.
It's absolutely comical. Yeah. There's a couple of comments here that I think are quite interesting as well, kind of covering the two players we're talking about. Dean says they're too similar. I think you can play one and not the other. He's talking about Lingard and MG Dub here, I assume, and I would 100% agree with that. I feel that Lingard stifles or cramps, should I say? I don't mean it strongly, but he cramps MG Dub's freedom to really take control of that 10 position as well. You got Bounty saying MG Dub looks exciting whilst Lingard looks disinterested and crap. I won't go as far as crap, but I get what you're saying. I would say, and I said this on the video after the Bournemouth match, for all those who say the Nottingham boys' passions with your Worrells, Yateses, etc. For me, MG Dub's been showing me the most passion on the pitch. He's charging back, trying to win the ball back. Him and O'Brien are standing out so badly to me in terms of the effort, the willingness to do, you know, the dirty side of the game. And that's why I think a lot of the Forest fans have taken to them very, very quickly as well. Just before we move on, I'm just going to add the link for the guys in the chat as well. If you guys want to jump in and give us your opinion, I'm sure you guys have been gagging to get some football talk off your chest as well. So I'll put the link in the chat for you guys now. So feel free, and I'll pin it if it will let me. 26 error. Let's get that pinned. So if you want to come in, just click the link. You don't need to be on cam if you don't want to. It's up to you. But come in if you want to get some Forest talk off your chest. you're more than welcome to do. And Wake Up News is saying Lingard impact sub. I think we both agree with that.
I think
So let's move it forward then into this weekend, into this Friday.
Yeah.
Talking a bit about Fulham. I hate to say it, but I've been impressed with them. I don't like Fulham. But even me, who's not a Fulham lover or liker, you've got to give them credit. I've been so impressed with the way they've really pressed from the front. Defense always starts with the front. Even Mitrovic pressing on, and really closing down the space. Look what they did to Liverpool. Look what they did even against Arsenal. I felt they were unlucky not to come away with something there as well. Mitrovic has been on fire. I hate to say it, but he's scoring loads of goals. But even the players they've brought in are starting to look good. You've got the what's the chap from Man U that came in, Andre Pereira. Who was an outcast and a complete outcast. And he's actually looking like a bit of a baller suddenly in that Fulham team. And they're playing a 4-3-3 formation. And I don't know what your thoughts have been on them, but I secretly, well, now it's publicly, I've been quite impressed with them and it's bugging me.
Yeah, I think the same feeling for me as well. I hate to admit it, but they've been out of the 3 promoted teams, they've been certainly the most impressive so far. And they've got a good manager who, I mean, for whatever reason, has not really been able to prove it at that level. But I think he's in a happy place right now, with Fulham. And like you say, Mitrovic has been an absolute handful. I'm just gutted I didn't put him in my FPL team from day one.
Yeah.
No one expected, but I think he's been really, really good. And you're right, Andres Pereira's looked like a world beater all of a sudden. And just, I mean, that just goes back to Man U's mentality with their players over the last decade or so, isn't it? They bring these world beaters in, or best in the world, and they turn them into rubbish. Plays seem to get worse going there. But I think they have impressed me certainly, and I don't think it's going to be easy task to get anything out of that game. But we should be hopeful at home. We should be hopeful, and we need to see improvement. Whatever it result is, bless you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
We need to see an improvement in performance drastically, and I think we will see it. I think the players know that there's so much expectation in them. And Cooper knows that as well. Cooper knows that wasn't good enough against Bournemouth. It just wasn't good enough in every aspect from him as well. And like he said, and that's why I love him. He said, the buck stops with me. I'm in charge. It was my decision basically, and we'll see some changes, and hopefully it's going to be positive. And whatever happens, my only thing I say to the fans is just stick with us. Because whatever happens this season, it's been a long time coming, and we can't just even if, let's say, if worst happened and we didn't stay up this year, I still want Cooper to bring us back up. I'd want him to be in charge. And I don't think we should be too quick to criticize away as much, but understand that. If you've got something to say, don't tag a player in your comment. Just say it. Don't tag his name in it, and because that goes back to them. Players will be affected by that sort of stuff, and there's no need for that. Everyone's so quick to, because of social media and because of how accessible it is and how easy it is to call these players out individually. People are quick to do it.
They'll know they've had a bad game. They don't need the likes of you and me tagging them on Twitter or what have you. I don't mind people wanting to vent their frustration after a game for the next day or two and point out where it went right and wrong. But when it gets personal, where people are getting tagged, at the end of the day, when you've had a bad day at work yourself, you don't need someone else coming out to tell it to you, or, pointing the finger straight in your face. So I agree with that. I do. Yeah. Who do you think's under more pressure on Friday? Forest or Fulham?
Oh, undoubtedly us. If it was an away game, maybe there would have been a little less pressure, but there's definitely the pressures on us. And it should be, because we can't expect to be in the Premier League and not have pressure on us. The journey to get here took long enough, and nobody said it was going to be easy. Yeah, a lot of us got. I did myself. I got carried away before the season started. I was like, yeah, we're going to finish 11th, and I know I know what your prediction is, my friend. We're going to stick with it, but we're going to stick with it because we have to stay positive and we have to believe that the players. What we didn't see on against Bournemouth was the players giving their best, and that was what was a disappointment. That's why I was upset at the end of the game. Not because we lost the game, but because we didn't give it our best. We didn't try hard enough. We tried hard against Tottenham, and we came off, with our heads held high. We just didn't have that cutting edge. But against Bournemouth, we literally gave them the game. We let them in and gave them the 3 points, and that's not acceptable from at any level. And certainly not at Premier League level,
See, here's my positive spin on it, right? And it's I'm reaching, I know, but I do have a point somewhere in here. If we were 2-0 up at half time. Now at half time, I was happy. I remember doing the live stream. Everyone was happy. We were all smiling and dancing and what have you. Yeah. If we had finished that match 2-3-0 up, it would have masked and papered over the cracks of actually because I went back and watched that first half. We didn't actually play that well, So my point here is, in a way, had we won that match against a team we should have beaten, going into this next match, everyone on a high, potentially the cracks would have opened up bigger. At least with that Bournemouth loss now, that Cooper's definitely sat down, reviewed the match, spoken to the players, spoken to his backroom staff, etc., and taken stock from it. And I think everyone would be shocked to see the first 11 coming onto the pitch, the same 11, sorry, that started the Bournemouth match. So in a way, as much as it did piss me off, the score from the Bournemouth match, now it's a distant memory. I'm trying to be positive about it and think, okay, well, at least they're going to learn from it. Had we carried on and won that match 2-0, then potentially we may have seen the same starting 11, the same starting back three, and so on. So maybe, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to do the preview video probably tomorrow or Wednesday. And honestly, mate, I ain't got a clue who the starting 11 will be. I know what I want, but at the same time, I'm trying to think, what does Cooper want? It's going to be interesting. I'm going to bring Rich in to see what his opinion is on it. Rich, let's bring you in, buddy.
Hey, right, there, mate.
Rich? How are you, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
Good, mate. Good. I'm looking forward to Friday already. I got a smile on my face. Bournemouth is a distant memory. How are things with you?
All right. I think touching on the Bournemouth game, I feel like you were saying, reviewing that first half, as a Forest fan, obviously we don't make it easy. But I do think we deserved the win against Bournemouth, but in the same respect, we didn't really put any major pressure. If you compare Tottenham's match to Bournemouth, it's like there was no comparison. We was in the Tottenham game and we put up a fight. We just didn't get the result. We just weren't there in the final third. But in the Bournemouth game, we had that to win and we just threw it away.
Do you think there was a bit of arrogance amongst the performance? Yeah. Like, we'd gone 2-0 up. It's only crappy Bournemouth. We could roll our way to the end of this.
I was watching your watch along that day, and I felt like because they had no manager at the time, I feel like we went in there underestimating their performance, and they're not the worst team in the world. Everybody has their day. Do you know what I mean? So I think we went in underestimating the fact that they are still a Premiership team now. They're in the league, so they've done something right. So I just feel like them sacking their manager was a bit preemptive, but it was.
But you could argue it worked, didn't it? After that, they picked up 4 points.
Exactly. Exactly.
I would have personally loved to have seen Parker in the dugout when they came up against us. I think we would have smashed them.
I agree.
I
agree.
That a Parker team 2-0 down at half time, would have been over second half. And I just feel like that the manager they got in there, the temp manager, actually thought about it tactically, made those changes and caught Cooper off guard.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I feel like having no manager is probably a harder scenario to go into than going into a game where their old manager was in, because we know his tactics, we know the way he plays. So Cooper's got something to go on, where he's going in blind in the game. So necessarily, it's a worse matchup than it would have been before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you guys think about the formation?
Well, what do you think about the formation? Then we'll tell us. Do you want to see a formation change?
100%. I do.
Do you think we will as well? All right, let's start with you do want to see a formation. What would you like to see, Rich?
I'll see. I did put it in the chat a minute. A 4-3-2-1 would be a pleasing formation, because if you've watched the highlights of like Taiwo and Dennis, they're out and out strikers. Yeah, give them the opportunity to be an out and out striker. They shouldn't have to look for another pass.
Yeah.
Let them run. Let them be free to attack the goal and do what they're good at. We've got MGW. We've got Lingard when he actually wants to pull his finger out. We've got Johnson. He's one of the best ball providers I've seen in a long while. He's a very young, good talent. And yes, he can shoot as well, and he can put them in. But if you've watched all our championship games to come up, he was providing a lot of aerial balls into the box. And I feel like Awoni would get onto that. Like the first goal, where Chiarte scored, that header, it would be something that Awoni could do, and Dennis would get a touch on and put it in. I just feel like the formation we've got now, I feel like Cooper's trying to overcompensate for the poor defence we have at the minute. And that's something that okay, yeah, the Premiership, we can't make a mistake more than once, but with respect, you're only in here once. You've made a very big commitment by spending as much money as we have. So then why are we just sitting back and putting it in all into the defence? Like I said, I tweeted not long ago on your post, we can't expect Premiership results if we've got a Championship defence.
Yeah, that sums it up now. And don't forget, on top of that, just to your point on crosses, we got Renan Lodi, who's one of the best crossers of a football.
Exactly.
The problem is he's got no one to aim at with the false nine that we've been playing the last two matches. You put an Awoni in there, big physical presence, and then he's got a target. You know, even if he's crossing it in for Awoni to head it down, if he's not in a shooting, attacking position, for an empty dub coming in on the edge of the box or what have you, that would work nicely as well. So I do agree with your point and I think you're in agreement as, aren't you? A number 9's required up front. Scratch this false 9 stuff.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, I mean, like Rich touched on it. I mean, one of Brennan's strengths is getting wide and getting the balls in, and he's got some really good crosses in this season, but there's been no near, and nobody in that. Go on, Chris. Rich, sorry, go on.
There's just no end product. And that's the honesty about it all. Yeah. We can't beat around the bush with it. There's no end product because there's no. He's putting it in. It was like, I think it was the game against Everton. We dominated. I feel like we dominated most of that game. Yeah, they played well, but we should have won that game. That was another Bournemouth type of environment where we did everything to win that game. And you can't put it against him. Pickford pulled a pass out from the gods. It was a beautiful ball, but it's more the case of we go back to that defensive structure again. It's just not there. You've got to admit, guys, it's not there.
It's just not working because I've never. It's something Tim touched on last stream that we did together. How open Forest have been this season, you know, how many chances we're conceding. So whatever the reason for having the 3 at the back and that formation, it's not working. So change it up, man. Let's do something 100%. Different. Yeah, it's not.
Rich, run us through your personnel in that formation. So you've gone 4-3-2-1 or 4-3-1-2?
Yeah, 4-3-2-1. So
okay, run us through it back to front.
So an ideal, I'd say. So you've got your right back and your left back. I'd say Lodi and Nico. They don't change. They've got to be in. See, personally, we've got Bidet, and I've watched his highlights. He's a quality defender. He'll put his heart on his shield and he'll go out on it. Yeah, he knows when to tackle.
And he's got pace.
Yeah, he's got pace. I'd say Bolly for the size, aerial defensive figure. Yes, he's not as fast, but he's there. But then you've got Chiarte, which has got a little bit more pace. He's not the best, but he's there to help him as well. So I'd say, so the back four would probably be
Wait, you
Lod.
put 5 there. You put 5, mate.
Okay, yeah, so good.
No, well, yeah, 4-3-2-1. So I'm saying, I'm not saying Chiarte would be in defence. I'm just he'd be up a bit further up. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
So my back four would be obviously Lodder, Nico, Bidet, and Bolle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'd go. This is a tough one. I want to see O'Brien back in the team. I really do. He's a very attacking-minded player, and he's not scared to press. I'd say O'Brien, Chiarte. My third player is very tough, but I want to say Mangala. I want to see him back in the team when he's match fit.
He's fit.
Is he fit? Yeah, okay, fair enough. So he's got to go back in the team. Then I'm going to see MG Dub.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably say either Lingard or Dennis, preferably Dennis, and then playing Awona or Johnson up front.
Okay, interesting. So you're not putting in Freuler. Who else is missing from that?
Yeah,
Freuler, McKenna, Worrell.
Mhm.
So he's
McKenna, McKenna's the one I wanted to touch on. So would you put Bolly ahead of McKenna?
See, that was a tricky one. If match fit, I'm sorry, but if match fit, I do like McKenna, I do, but I just feel like Bolly's got more presence, and I think he's got more Premier League experience, as you say. But then saying that, Bolly wouldn't be in if Niakate was not injured.
100%, yeah.
He'd be in. But obviously, going on players we've got right now, I'd probably say Bolle, because he's got Premier League experience. Touching back on McKenna, he is a good defender, but we go back to the pace situation. Is he fast enough?
Yeah, he's not the quickest. Yeah.
And Fiola, I'm not really seeing much of him. I've only seen a couple of outings, but I'd say if he came on before half time, I feel like we need to make subs in the first half. I know it sounds silly, but we're making subs very late in the game, and we're trying to recover too late. Do you know what I'm saying? So he'd be. Go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say we're being reactive rather than proactive with our substitutions, and that. I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Freuler off, McKenna off. Did you have Johnson in the team?
Yeah, I did. It's either Johnson in out and out strike or Dennis in out and out strike. I wasn't too sure where to put him, because obviously we know the class of Johnson, and then we do also know the class of Dennis and what he did last season, or the season he played with a poor team he had to work with. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I think Kay puts on a really good point. I think Bolly will start against Fulham because of the point Kay's raising here. Bolly on in the middle to deal with Mitrovic. Now, Mitrovic isn't the paciest of strikers, but when it comes to physicality, he's a bit of a brute. And I think Bolly is the right player for that one. And I think he will start against Fulham. I like your team in general. I personally would switch the formation. I don't think Dennis is a number 10. I'd either play Dennis as an out-and-out striker or on one of the wings. So for me, I would probably go, if I was going your formation, so you went 4-3-2-1, I would probably flip it to a 4-3-1-2. So I'd put MG Dub in the hole and then probably push Dennis up front with be it Owoni or Johnson. That would be the change I would make if I was going to play in the style you did. Just because I feel, one, I don't think we've seen enough of Dennis. There's two players that have annoyed me that we haven't seen enough of, and that's Dennis and Freuler. And I think they're two players that should, at the very least, be pushing hard for the first team place. That's my opinion. But how they fit in the formation, God, it's a headache. It's a real headache.
Yeah. So, question. Obviously, we have got a very competitive team. We've signed 22 signings now. Do you reckon they're not making it into the team because Cooper's not seeing something out of them, or do you reckon it's just he's trying to work around getting players in that he feels fit into his team better, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, go on, Ez.
No, well, I think all the players that we've brought in have been brought in to fit a certain system. They've played in those systems with their clubs. They're kind of they knew what they were looking for. They knew the type of players that they want. So it's just making it work. I think there's so many players that have been brought in, and I think also this blessing in disguise of having this extra bit of training time is they're going to make the most of it. You know, he's had a lot. He's had more time to have a lot better look at these players, because the majority of ones that came in late, we had a 3-game week. You know, there was no training in between games. You know, it's literally game, rest, and then play again. So that was missed. I think he's had a bit more time with them. I think it would have been hard for him to throw too many of them in without proper training time, without proper work on, you know, set pieces and all that. But you have to do, you know, which is part of your working week. You know, you work on set pieces, you work on formations, you work on your positioning, and that kind of stuff does take time. So I think because he hasn't had that luxury, he's been a bit slow and a bit less wanted to bring these players in. But I think now you'll see it. I think you'll see a lot more of his new signings getting a chance now, and maybe some of the older heads being given a bit more less time. But going back to somebody like Freuler, I mean, he's a conductor. For me, he needs to start. He needs to be the one pulling those strings, and he will. And I do firmly believe once he's had a run of games, you're not going to shift him. You know, same like O'Brien at the start of the season. You know, there was no reason to take him out. He's been one of our standout players from the start of the season, and I think you'll see that from Freuler, and that's what the kind of level of player that we've brought in. And like I've touched on before, when you're bringing in players that are of a higher level, the players that aren't up to that level will have to just understand that and take it, and not see that as a slight on them, but see that as an incentive that I need to get to that level. I need to be as good as Lodi from Toffola's point of view. You know, I need to be as good as Freuler, maybe from Yates' point of view. You know, I need to add certain parts to my game. So it's got to be healthy competition. And I think you'll see a lot more of these new players getting their run out from the team over the next couple of games, certainly before the international break, I reckon.
I agree with what you're saying, and I disagree a little. I agree with what you're saying that I think Cooper likes to give them bedding in time, a week or two on the training pitch, let them, because obviously they got to settle from a personal perspective as well with a house, etc., and what have you. I just still feel, and this is just me talking now as a fan, I still feel there's a little favourites FC when it comes to the old guards. Like, I'll go back to the Bournemouth game and talk about Colback coming on. Yeah. When I don't know if you guys saw it while you were at the game, but there was a moment where I think it was Coyote looked like he was coming off injured, and O'Brien was being warmed up. Yeah. And I think that might have even been in the first half or early in the second half. I can't remember now back to when it was. So the point here though is there was no issues about O'Brien being fully fit or anything like that. And when I saw him bringing Colback on, I remember the guys in the chat were saying to me, Colback's warming up. And I'm like, no, you guys are just trolling. There's no way Colback's coming on when you got Freuler and O'Brien sitting there on the bench. That, for me, was probably one of the biggest mistakes I've seen Cooper make this season. And it's not against... I'm not saying about Colback. Now, I'm not a fan of Colback's. I've made very clear. But it was more from a tactical point of the match. I didn't understand what he thought. I think he came on when it was 2-2. I don't understand what Colback can bring to gain you that goal. If you want to shore up the midfield, bring in an extra body to lock it down because you got a 2-1 lead, it's a bit of a tight game. I'm fine with that. But when you've got an O'Brien who could get in there, win the ball back, get the turnovers going, get the ball moving forward quicker, or a Freuler who can play that ball, he can create what one of Freuler's best assets is from the many games I've watched him play is he's one of those players who makes the game. I'm not comparing him to Zidane, but in terms of, you know, when you used to watch Zidane play, he always looked like he had time on the ball. He could then pick out a pass, yeah. Not at that level, but I'm saying Freuler has that ability to create time to then pick out the right pass. There's certain players that have it, and he's one of those. So for me, that's why I still feel there's a little favourites FC. Now, he got absolutely ridiculed, not just by me, by quite a lot of Forest fans about Colback coming on for it. And I think he's going to learn from that mistake. So even though I still feel deep down inside he has this favourites FC in him with Yates, Colback, Worrell, etc., I think he won't do it because of what happened against Bournemouth. So I think there will be wholesale changes in this game. I don't think he changes the formation. This is a Steve Cooper formation. You have to go back all the way to his England days when he played a 4-2-3-1 to see a change in his formation. So I still think he goes 3 at the back, but I think the personnel will change. And I think he'll bring Bolly in to, as Kay said in the chat earlier, to shore up that battle with Mitrovic. What else he does, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, that's my thoughts on your question there, Rich.
I have to agree. No, that's all right. I have to agree. You've made some like 3 quality points about it. It's like we say, he knows now he's got to make changes. And if I'm honest with you, I've never been the biggest fan of Colback because he's prone for mistakes. And if a game's close, like logically, if a game's close, why would you bring on a player that is prone to make the game more difficult? Do you see where I'm coming from? And I've not got anything against him, like I said, but it's a case of he made a mistake there because that, like we say, we always go back to it. It was a winnable game and it should have been in the bag. But like you touched on, having Freuler instead of thinking, he's got that essence about him. He will find a space out of nothing, and he will make that pass. Where do you see Colback doing that? You don't. You can't string 2 straight feet in front of each other. But I've got to say, I must agree that it's going to be a very different game. I feel the Fulham game is going to determine whether his tactics are working or they're actually just going to proceed to go down a bad path. But I genuinely believe that there are going to be some mega changes in this team, and I feel like the newer signings are going to actually get some running time on the pitch, which is needed. And Mitrovic is something to be reckoned with at the minute, and Bolly needs to put in a shift and just start strengthening him. He's got a shot on him and he's got strength, but he's not got speed. So we should be able to handle with him. It's whether we can handle with the wingers, because I don't know Fulham players off by heart, but they have got some very sharp wingers.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. All right, Rich, before we let you go, mate, give us your score prediction.
I want to say a confident. I want to say a confident 3-1.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Very nice. I'll take that. Definitely, mate. Rich, thank you so much for jumping on, buddy. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts. It's good to hear you after speaking to you so much on comments and what have you. So good to have you on, mate. And you made some.
Thanks for having me, mate. No worries.
Really appreciate it, Rich. So enjoy the rest of your evening, buddy.
And you. See you later, guys.
Cool. Have a good one, mate. All the best. Bye. And guys, the link's still in the chat. So if you want to come on like Rich and just share your points, your thoughts, what I really want to hear from you guys is, who do you think the starting 11 will be? And 2, what formation do you think they would line up in? So make sure you come in and talk us through your chats. I think you made a few good points there, Ez. I can't see Cooper going to that formation or any other formation, in my opinion. I know you're hoping he will.
I'm hoping he will, purely because we're at home and we have to be more on the front foot at home. But I do. That was a great point that one of the viewers made about pairing Bolly up because of Mitrovic's threat.
Yeah,
I think
I like that.
That's a good point, absolutely. And we did do. I mean, yes, they'd already won the league they'd won promotion by then. But I remember how we totally shut him out of a game at Craven Cottage towards the end of the season. You know, he didn't get a sniff, and we really
He had
frustrated
that
him.
one chance that he dragged. I remember my butthole puckered up quite tightly as he dragged it wide. But you're right. Cook played really well that night, didn't he?
Did that night, and we frustrated to the point where I think we had to take him off because he got a booking and he was close to getting himself sent off. You know, so really frustrated the hell out of him in that game. But just from a point of view, we're playing at home, and I think a 3 out of the back maybe is one for when we're playing away, and but play more on the front foot when we're at home. And there's still another team that came up with us. Yes, they've had a really good start, and they've been very impressive and solid looking since they've come up. But we can't go into games with fear. We've earned our opportunity to be here, and let's make it count. We can't play with fear, because then the worst is going to happen, and we can't go on with the season. And we've got to learn from this. And I'll go back to what you said about him playing as favourites, and that was my point. That's what he did. That was my theory. That's what he did. But they let him down big time, to the point where he's not been booed off in a single game before that, has he? I can't remember back to a single game that season where that happened, and that would have hurt Cooper. Yes, it came from a small section of the fans, but it was loud enough to be heard. And they let him down big time, and I can't see him giving those players a chance. And I think that's what his point was at that game. Right? Okay, this is your chance. After this game, you can't complain that you're not getting your chance when I've got all these players that we brought in. And they've not been. They're sitting there patiently waiting to be given a chance, and I've given you your chance, and you've let me down. So I don't think any of them.
Right, mate. I hope you're right. I want to touch on a couple of Fulham side of the equation on this, mate. And the Easters Reds brought this up. They've signed Dan James. He'll challenge us for pace. We need a faster CB or Nico or Lodi to mark him out. What are your thoughts on Dan James, mate? I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he is lightning. He doesn't have too much end product for me, but I don't want to say it out loud because I'm probably going to jinx him. Now he's going to score a hat-trick or something. But do you see him featuring in this match at all?
That's why I'm biting my tongue. Exactly what you just said. I don't want to jinx him, because I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Brennan Johnson, and he'd been keeping Brennan Johnson out of that Wales team. So I don't think he's as good as. Yes, he's got pace, but I don't think he's. I don't want to jinx it. He hasn't got. I have to be so careful. But yeah, I don't think he's got that end product either. And I think if we were just matching them two players up together, I think Brennan's a year or two younger than him, but I think he's a higher level and with a higher potential. He's going to a new club, he's got the opportunity to actually play for a chance, and maybe he's one of those players as well, but just needs some confidence. Most players need confidence, but needs to run the games as well. So he is potentially a danger man on the day, but they have got threats, that's why they've done as well as they've done. They more than matched up with some of the bigger teams that they've played against. So certainly it's not going to be, and no game's easy at this level. We can't expect that to be the case, but we just got to worry about ourselves and play our game and be the best, give the best that we can possibly give on the day, and not worry too much. But yeah, he's one player that as soon as you slag him up, after he'll come back and fight you on the backside, So yeah,
I like what they've done, because they obviously have yo-yoed. Yeah, we all know Fulham, Norwich are yo-yoing. But they've kept a decent core of their team. They kind of knew very early on, by February time, I think it was last year, they're pretty much shooing for promotion. So you can see they've built a core, but I quite like the players they've brought in. Like, I think Leno, I wouldn't have minded him coming to Forest I know we've got Henderson, but the deal they got on Leno, I think he was a quality keeper. He kind of got shunned out at Arsenal a bit, but I don't think he was ever a bad goalkeeper. He's done okay for them as well. But they've got that core, and that's why I think they were able to hit the ground running. But my point is that this should be Forest in a few weeks' time, where the players have gelled a bit more, where Cooper's more comfortable with his starting 11. But it's also another example of a team that's been promoted who are not scared to play in a back four. And then, either they're playing a 3-3, or at times, I think against Chelsea, they went 4-2-3-1 as well. Who are not scared to go to this back four, because it gives you that extra body up the pitch. You're getting rid of a centre back to push up the pitch. And it just feels for me, I agree with you, the formation needs to change. I'm just not confident that he will.
And if we're talking about slow centre backs, they've still got Tim Ream, who's
Yeah.
slower than Joe Watt. But it's not about pay. And I've mentioned this before as well.
Positioning. If you're slow, you got to be experienced enough to position yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. John Terry is a perfect example.
Yeah.
He wasn't, his pace wasn't anything like it, but his reading of the game was superb. Yes, somebody mentioned that he usually had a fast centre, but not always. He played with Desai, he played with Carvalho. They weren't necessarily speed merchants either, you know, next to him. So if you can read the game, that's half a battle, you know. You don't necessarily have to have a pace. But I watched your analysis of the game, and let's go on Billings for first goal. How much time did Warren want to give him? He's playing three at the back. He should have known straight away, I've got to step into him. I've got to go up. I've got to close that pace. I've got two defenders next to me. You know, that's how the back three should work.
That's the danger, man.
It's like they've forgotten how to work about, because it worked well last season. It did work well last season. It's like they've forgotten how to play in that formation now. And
they were just standing in line on the edge of that box, and I was getting frustrated as I was watching it. I was like, surely he's going to move forward now. Surely he's got to step out and the other two will step across. That's the whole point of having three at the back, is that one of them can step out and you've still got two covering. You know, that's the advantage over playing at back four, because if one centre back steps out, you've only got one covering the centre. With a back three, you've got that. And he was just ball watching. He was ball watching. And you're right. You know, Terry wasn't the fastest, but Terry would have smelt that danger, stepped out, closed Billing off, or at least, you know, closed him a bit earlier to give him less of the freedom on the shooting opportunity.
That's where
how many more worldy goals have to be scored against us? It's the same against Newcastle. No one stepped out towards Shah when he took the shot, you know? It's too many of this happening.
And there's too many good players. And you've seen a centre-back like Shah can put it in your top corner. Remember Vincent Kompany's winner a couple of seasons,
wasn't it?
that won them the league, you know.
Yeah.
That's what happens at this level, you know, whether it's a centre-back or a centre midfielder or a striker, you give them enough time, they're going to punish you. And we have been punished, and we've been punished quite, dangerous. I mean, like against Tottenham, for example, that first chance they gave, it wasn't even a chance, you know. Harry Kane turned it into a chance, and that's how lethal these players are at this level. So you can't make those mistakes and expect to get away with it. But
mate, it comes from what Bet MMA is saying here. Yeah, did they ask Terry to defend on the halfway line with no CDM to cover? That's a really good point, because as a defender, I'm sure Cook and Worrell know they're not Linford Christie and they haven't got the pace to it. But what baffles me is who is giving the instruction to play not just out the halfway line, but push into the opponent's half. Yeah. And then suddenly leave 50 yards behind you of freedom for anyone with a bit of pace to get behind you. Is that instruction coming from the manager, or is that coming from the players just losing their sense of discipline and ending up in the opponent's half? Like the Spurs goal, the one you're talking about, the first one, Cook not only was in the Spurs half, but he slid in on Kane. Yes, we were unlucky. He won the ball and it ricocheted back off. I think it was O'Brien. But if he just stood and held him up, the midfield would have been able to come back in, provide cover. It was just erratic, and he's an experienced player, and that's what threw me about that one. Why are they so high up with so little pace? If Cooper wants to play them that high up, then he's going to have to bring Bidet in. He's going to have to bring Biancone in, and Niakate once he's fit as well. But if you're going to stick with those three, you've got to drop the back line. You cannot defend on the halfway line. So it's a good point by MMA there.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, he's right, because you can't play that formation with players that we've got. And you're right. If you had Niakate in there, you had somebody with a bit more pace, you can take. It's a risk either way, but it's a more calculated risk when you've got players with pace that can make up that difference. But with players the way we're playing, I say, and the amount of chances we're conceding. Something's not working, and something's not working enough, you know, and we're not going to concede 15, 20 chances per game and get away with it. You're just not going to have it. And that needs
Exactly. I think, for me, let's kind of, if we wrap up about 11ish, mate. I know it's a work night and what have you. If for me, I think, look, there's two ways I'm going to talk this through. The Cooper team, I think, will be a 3-5-2 or whatever you want to call it. I think he will go with Bolly in the middle and drop Cook. I think he's still going to leave Worrell on the right-hand side and then McKenna on the left. I personally, if I was going to play that formation, I'd give Biancone a chance at right centre-back to see what he's got. He's earned at least one shot at it. Then obviously Nico Williams and Lodi pick themselves. Now, in the middle two, I've just got a feeling he's going to go Mangala and O'Brien. I still got a feeling he's not going to play Freuler. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm basing this on. I don't know if he's fully convinced about Freuler. I don't know. I just think those are going to be the two. Now, I'm not against those two starting in the middle. I think if you look back at the Spurs game when they played together, was it the Spurs game? I think it was, wasn't it? They linked really well in there. I think that will be the two to start us off with. Now, the real question is, what does he do with the three up front? MG Dub starts. Does he drop Lingard? I don't know.
I think he does. I think he does. But no, they didn't. In fact, we didn't play in the Spurs game because Mangala wasn't fit, was he?
You're right. You're right. It was the Everton match.
Yeah, it was the Everton
and West
game.
Ham. It was the West Ham where they really shined, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But I think, he does. He does take Lingard out. I personally think he does take Lingard out of it. And I would prefer to see MG Dub in that position on his own and let him do what he needs to do and maybe have two ahead of him. And Johnson, like I say, he's flexible. He can pull out wide, be the extra man trying to get. But they have to have a central striker, whether it be a Wanyi or Dennis. And I wouldn't put. As good as Johnson is, I wouldn't put him as a central striker.
No, I agree.
He's worth more to us, in a freer role. But you got to have a central striker, whether it's a Wanyi or Dennis, and keep them there. They've got to be in that 6-yard box, And like I said last time, running to the front post, because 9 out of 10 of our crosses go to the front post, and there's nobody there. We're waiting for it on a back post. Get across that defender at the front post. Cut across the goalkeeper as well. Do that sort of stuff. But you have to have some one player who is the figure spearhead of our attack. But if you're going to go with two in midfield, I probably agree with you. It'd be Mangala and O'Brien. But if I was going to go with the three, I'd probably if it was a three, it would be Freuler, Mangala.
I would like to see the three. If he's going to do it, I'd like to see the three across the middle.
I think he has to be positive, because you can always make changes as you go along. Like I said, that's the beauty of this new system. And he even said, prior to the season starting, this is going to be a learning curve for him with these substitutions, and this new setup. So he's learning.
But that's the bit I don't get. Most of the press conferences I've heard of him, at some point or another, he said 5 subs is a game changer. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. I've heard it loads of times, but then he's just doing it too late. But we've already covered that. I want to ask you another question on Surridge. And Easter's Red has brought this up. He goes, I'd personally drop him to play Surridge, who will press the defense and won't let them ping that long ball. Do you think Surridge should play and is good enough to play at Prem? What are your thoughts on Surridge?
I would say yes to both of them. He is good enough. I believe he is good enough at this level. I think if the faith is shown in him and he got a run of games, same way with a Wanyi. If those two players had a run of games, either one of them, you'd see them put chances away. He's been very unlucky, He's had very little to go off, and he's never really let us down. He's one of those players that I remember seeing him against Valencia. It was a great cross just before half time. It was a great cross from Brennan Johnson, and his header was almost perfect, and it hit the cross. He rose like beautifully hung in the air, got the header in. And then he had one chance against Newcastle where he mistimed his header from across, and that was literally it. and then he's kind of been dropped. I think he's somebody again with a lot to prove, and he's not let us down. He's one of the most clinical finishers we've got at the club, and he needs to be given more time as well. But if you're going to play a number 9, I think a one knee still. I don't think he's got the legs for a full 90 minutes. So them two changing, mixing and matching would work for me. I said this before we brought Dennis in, but he reminds me so much of Brennan. So maybe he's one to switch out for Brennan when Brennan needs a rest. But
would you be okay for Brennan to be dropped for Dennis coming in? Is that something you'd stomach?
I think if needs be, and like I say, no player is guaranteed a start. Even if you're Brennan Johnson, nobody's guaranteed a start, and everybody should be fighting for their place, and nobody should expect to just walk into this team, But I do think he's more like for Brennan, so he's back up to them, and then probably the play that he more often than not come on for. I don't think too many times you'll see them both playing together. So I think that was one of the thinkings behind bringing him in anyway. And like I say, his quality, and also him and the 1 year are international teammates. They've got to be given a chance to build up a partnership as well. But all of this should be positive, because we've got, look at all these players we're talking about. None of us can come up with a starting 11 that we all agree on, and that surely should say that we've got enough quality in there, but we don't. I don't think Cooper knows what his best 11 is. I still don't. And it's going to take him time. And I think the trial and error of the Bournemouth game was a big error. And he will learn from that. He has to learn from that. And I think it hurt him. It really hurt him. Reaction, the way the players let him down, really, because he can't do anything more. He said he had an amazing, really good halftime team talk with them, and then it was flat when they came out. So what were they reacting to? And they had an amazing reception coming out at halftime. But going right back to, and I know we want to go back over the old ground. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said it really well. In that Bournemouth game, we hardly had. We scored from 2 set pieces, basically, a corner and a penalty. Open play. We didn't create much at all. That's why when the halftime whistle went, I turned around to Joe and I said, I don't know how we're 2-0 up. I don't think not that we didn't deserve it, but I didn't see that we were that much better to be 2-0 ahead of.
Agreed. It flattered us, didn't it? The scoreline.
Absolutely flattered.
It's interesting. I mean, just on the Surridge one, I can't make my mind up. I really can't, because I think 2 points on Surridge. I think he is one of the best finishers in the club. I'd say it's between him and Brennan. Under pressure, I think Brennan is still the better finisher. He scores those pressure goals, the ones against Sheffield United. Even if you look at the West Ham, I know he was offside, but the way he finished it was exceptional. Surridge as well. His strength for me is whipping that finesse shot into the far corner. He gets lovely whip on it, lovely finesse on it. I think he's a great finisher. Is the rest of his all-round gameplay good enough yet for Prem? I think the question still, is still out there. I think he's a good presser, which I think we miss a bit at the front. But his general play in and around. But then you argue, well, he's on to get goals, and stuff like that. So the other point I'd make on him is I always feel he's played second fiddle to someone. So when he first came in, Keenan Davis was always preferred ahead of him. Then he got that nice run when Davis pulled his hammy, and he was looking really good. And then as soon as Davis, even though he wasn't fully sharp, came back, right at the end of the playoffs, you still felt Cooper wanted to put Davis in front of him. So, and then now obviously you got Owoni coming in, who's had the nod a couple of times over Surridge. So I don't know how convinced Cooper is that he's a lead man. And I think Cooper still prefers him as an impact sub, maybe with 20 minutes to go and what have you. And I probably would agree with that if Cooper would start another bloody number 9. So if he was there, putting Owoni in the start. But all of this, to me, links back to what will he do with Lingard? Has he got what it takes to drop Lingard? Because for me, MG Dub's still good enough. You could maybe argue, okay, Brennan hasn't been as hot as he was last year. Maybe he's going to drop Brennan, leave Lingard, and then bring Dennis in or something like that. it's an interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the team lineup. I guarantee all of us will have one player on that team sheet at least where we'll be like, I wouldn't have started him. I would have started so and so. But again, that goes back to your point. It makes the depth of it interesting. I did see a comment. I think it was from Rich earlier. Am I going to the game or watch along? This week is a watch along, so we'll have the watch along for you on Friday. I'm really excited for it. One, I'm gagging for a football match, mate, and two, I want the wrongs put right from what happened in the Bournemouth match as well. But I'm gonna struggle on the video to put together what I think Cooper's 11 will be, because it's a tough one. It's a tough one because I really want to see Freuler. I really, like you said, once he gets into that team, I just don't see how he doesn't stay in that team. He's leaders, because the other point I want to make is we're missing leaders on that pitch. I thought Coyote looked quite leadership-like in the game. I thought he actually played quite well in the Bournemouth match. But he also added a leadership quality. You could see him barking and pointing orders around. And I just haven't been seeing that from anyone in, pushing it up towards the attacking third. There hasn't really been a leader. And that's what I was hoping Lingard would have done, coming in with the experience, marking his territory, so to speak. He hasn't done that. But I think Freuler would come in and do that. And as they all say, conductor. And, that's part of it. So it's interesting, mate.
But yeah, touching on that is my disappointment with Lingard as well. I thought he would know that he's the bee's knees, he's the top man, and he'll be asking for the ball, but he's hiding. Half the time he's been hiding, and when the biggest movement or positive impact I saw from him was against Everton when MG Dub came on and they linked, and it kind of seemed to shake up out of his slumber in that game and become a lot more active, and he was all over the pitch in that final 20-odd minutes against Everton. But we haven't seen that from him, and that's what I really expected from him. But he'd come and really demand the ball and we saw glimpses of that against West Ham, and then not since, because he did look good against West Ham and he did have some good stuff, and was on the front foot. And I certainly saw it in his debut against Valencia. Even though his shooting was a little bit way off, he was asking.
But he was prepared to shoot. He was prepared to shoot, wasn't he? That's kind of gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that just seems to have died off from him. Is he really serious about trying to get into this England squad? Because right now it doesn't seem to me that he thinks he can get in, and that might be affecting his motivation. But
then the worry is, mate, what happens after the World Cup? What is his motivation? If England is currently his motivation, let's just say he doesn't get into the England squad.
Yeah.
What happens following that? What's his motivation now? Because come January, technically he can start talking to clubs on the Bosman, because he'll be down to his last 6 months. So it's interesting. But yeah, Bet MMA is asking about Freuler did he play in a 2 in Atlanta? Easter Drez is saying he played in a 3. He actually did both, but they played a similar formation to Forest, so they would do a lot of 3-5-2s. So he knows the formation well enough. That's one of the reasons I feel he was brought in, is because he knows how to step in and cover the wing backs as they go forward. But at the same time, he's a great crosser of the ball. And he works wide as well. He floats from that central midfield position, and he'll float out left, cross the ball in. I've also seen him doing it on the right as well. So it's very similar. So there's no excuse really for Cooper to say, well, he doesn't know the formation, doesn't know how I want to play, because the Atlanta formation is almost a spitting image of the way Cooper plays. So he's got to play. He's got to play, because I still feel there's not been a connection where the midfield is someone in the midfield is getting the ball and then connecting the attackers in with through balls. You know what I've missed is how many times did we see our strikers last season, the likes of Brennan Johnson, running in behind with the ball being threaded through, into his path, and then someone else coming from the other side, and we got so many goals from that. I can't think of a time I've seen it this season where that's happened, where we've got a counter attack where we're in behind their defensive line, and suddenly you're looking in the box and we're 3-on-2 or 3-on-1 or something like that. And I feel it's because we haven't got someone in the midfield who's just threading that ball into the gaps, pinging it into the channels and that's when Brennan Johnson's looking at his best, when he's running out wide, with the overlap from as we had Jed Spence back there. So I don't know, bro. I don't know. Okay, it's coming to 11 o'clock, mate. Let's finish off with some. It's too early to do predictions in the week, isn't it? Guys in the chat, get your predictions in there. I'm interested in them. I just want to shout out. There's been so many. I've seen loads of comments saying what a great guest Ez is to have on the channel, and he is absolutely top notch. I couldn't agree with the chat more. So round of applause, guys, in the chat for Ez. And also, don't forget, Ez has his own YouTube channel. So please go and subscribe to it now. Subscribe to mine if you're new, but definitely go and subscribe to Ez's. It's Forest Fans Hub. It's exactly written out as in the title there as well. So please subscribe to him. His content is amazing as well. They're saying, let's have a look at some of these. I'm assuming they're all in Forest favour. Dean's saying 1-0. Easter's Red is saying 3-1. Carl's gone for a draw. And then Turbo's gone. It's going to be a tough game 2-1 to Forest. I'm not going to lie to you, Ez. I'm not going to do a score prediction. I am worried about this game. I don't know if it's because there's been a big gap between games. I've just been really impressed with the way Fulham play. I really have. And in a way, I would like to see Forest playing with that same press level from the front. I'm a little worried, mate. I'm still obviously going to back Forest, but I don't know. How are you feeling about the game as a general? Which way do you think this one sways?
Well, I'm going to be optimistic because I'm hoping that this break has kind of affected them in a negative way and it's going to be positive for us. I think they're on a bit of a roll and I don't think they wanted this. This hasn't helped them, but I think on the opposite point of view, it has helped us and has given us a bit more time on the training pitch, and Cooper will make the most of that time. So I'm going to be positive going into it. Yes, they are a danger team and they're not going to be a walk. No team is going to be easy. And like we clearly saw against Bournemouth, if any team was going to be an easy game, that would have been the one. And it wasn't, and I think that mentality is what cost us the game, actually. So I don't think you'll see that mentality from us again, and we won't be taking any of our opponents easily. But I sincerely hope that the break has actually done them harm whilst
broken their rhythm a little.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's doing the opposite for us. So that's a little bit that I'm clinging on to be the difference on Friday. But it won't be an easy game at all. But beyond under the lights at the City ground, as you alluded to earlier, it's a special thing, and I just can't wait for it. I'm hoping that my ticket turns up in time and I manage to get there on Friday. But it'll be one of those that I think it'll be an amazing atmosphere. I think the fans, some of them a lot of us were annoyed by the ones who did boo, and I think we'll be making up for that on Friday.
I think that will happen.
I think that will happen, and I think, like I said, everybody has a right to voice their opinion, but there's things that are constructive and things that aren't going to help anybody. Yeah, it might get
exactly. It up. I'm sure the fans that did it regret it. Is, in my opinion, look, I put it down to knee-jerk reaction, shocked by what they saw in the second half, throwing away a 2-0 lead. I'd like to feel that our fans are a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of smarter in terms of understanding what's going on with the scenario. So I just put it down to knee jerk. Look, I've never booed. I probably would never boo, but I've sworn at them and I've shouted at them plenty of times in anger. So, it's understandable. Well, not the booing, but the emotional side of it is understandable. So, all right, mate. So, just to wrap up then, I will just to let you guys know what's coming up. So we've got the usual Forest news coming in tomorrow, and then we'll be doing the match preview. We've got the predictor back up and running. I think that will be live because there's enough games on the Premier League. So we'll squeeze that in probably Thursday if we can. It's going to suddenly gone from nothing to squeezing everything in. And then obviously on Friday, we will have the watch along from about 7:30. I think kickoff's 8, isn't it, on the Friday? They haven't changed that, have they? So we'll be bringing that to you guys. And then obviously we'll have the player rating straight after. and then probably the fan forum will be Saturday or Sunday because it'll be quite late once we've finished. So guys, couple of things from me. If you would like the video, if you're still here, thank you for watching. Please do go, if you're going to shop on Amazon tonight or tomorrow, use my Amazon links. They're in the description as well. Amazon will give me a little kickback for you guys just using it. It's completely free for you guys to use. Subscribe to the channel. Ez, you got anything coming up this week, or just really looking more next week now on the channel?
Next week, just trying to fit around work commitments for myself and Joe, and obviously with the game being on a Friday night, it might leave us a little not enough time. But I mean, just to your viewers, get on that Predictor because it's a lot of fun, and it's really nice to see everybody engage on that, and it's something I've really enjoyed the last couple of times.
Man, I've had a shocker last week. Well, the last
yeah. I don't want to bring it up, bro.
I think I got a point and a half. It was so bad, man. It was so bad. But yeah, guys, if you're not, the link's in the description. Go join. It's completely free. It's my favorite stream of the week because it's just, I love seeing what the guys predict on it and everything. But it's really good, yeah.
I know, because I remember we were calling out the fans who were, there was a few of them there who predicted Bournemouth win before on that Predictor League, didn't they? And,
shocking, yeah. Easter's Red has had a bad one as well. So did David. I think most people did. There was a couple of ones that came through okay. But yeah, the link's in the description, so go join it. We'll probably do that stream, I think, Thursday, because I got to train my under 12s on Wednesday night. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Welcome back to football, I guess, is the closing statement here. It's all full guns blazing, and then 2 weeks off after the Fulham match with the bloody international break. So it is what it is. But there's going to be the fixture pile-up is going to be crazy at some point this year. So, guys, before you leave the video a like. Go subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to Ez's channel as well at Forest Fans Hub. And we will see you tomorrow on the news. And until then, come on, you Reds, and good night, all you Reds. Guys.